This is Stuart Mackey with Pocket Podcaster Episode 6, What is a Podcast? Today we're going to be interviewing Steve Cherubino, who hosts a couple of different podcasts on iTunes and on Stitcher and on a couple of other platforms. And we're going to ask him to help us explain what exactly is a podcast and what sets it apart from other forms of media communication. I'm here with Steve Cherubino, and we're here today to talk about what is podcasting. So Steve, define a podcast for me.
A podcast is basically just an internet show. It's like a radio show on the internet, and it could be about any topic. Anyone can do one. You don't have to be accredited or have any, degree or anything. It's just people could pick up a mic and start talking into it, record a show, post it online, and it's essentially a podcast. What makes it a podcast specifically is it's a syndicated show, which means people can grab it from different places like iTunes, different directories, on a website. It basically gets blasted all over the web.
What would be different of a podcast? What's the difference between a podcast and, say, just recording like an audio class or a seminar on video?
That's a good question. Podcasts are essentially episodic for the most part, which means you do one week, you do one another week, and you just have a consistent schedule that you do your show. Whereas a course is finite. You have 10 videos you do, and then it's over. But podcasts, for the most part, continue on indefinitely until somebody just decides to stop doing it.
Why would someone want to get into podcasting? What's the advantage of podcasting over other things like a class, like you said, or YouTube, or just what's the big advantage to podcasting?
Podcasting, well, there's, like I said, you could podcast about anything, any topic. So it's almost like you're scratching your itch. You have something you want to say, and you want to host a show about it. Podcasting allows you to do that. You don't necessarily have to teach like you do in a class. You could talk about whatever you want. So it's so general and so broad that it opens doors for people that want to do different things. Like, say I want to do a show about computers. Mm-hmm. Okay, I could do a podcast about computers, or I could do a course about computers. It would be two different flavors. The podcast would be me talking about computers, maybe what I like about computers, maybe, what I encountered with computers that week. Did I fix any computers? Just whatever the format of the show is that I decide. Whereas a class or a course, okay, it's regimented. You need to get a point across. You need to educate somebody about something, maybe to give them like a degree or certificate at the end. So podcasting, the advantages of podcasting is it's wide open. There's no rules. You can do whatever you want. You can say whatever you want. And you could get your message out to a large amount of people easily and quickly using the internet.
So to summarize, what really sets a podcast apart is it's episodic and continual. So it's not just, say, 3 or 5 or 10 episodes and then it's done. It's also delivered, I believe, to the consumer. It's not like the consumer has to go get it. It's automatically when a new episode is released, it comes right to you.
Right, that's true.
And the different platforms to do that, correct?
Yeah. Now that's, a lot of people think they're podcasting, but technically they're not, because they'll put a show up on YouTube, or they'll do 3 shows and put them up on YouTube, and you say, yeah, I have a podcast. But it's like what you said. Podcasts get delivered to them. They don't necessarily have to go find it. And the technology to get that across is RSS feeds. Now, a lot of people have seen RSS feeds, heard the term, actually see the little icon of an RSS feed on a website, which is that little orange triangle with the 3 curves in it, like it's a radio signal, but have no idea what it is, why they should even press it or whatever. But what RSS is very cool, it's very powerful, and it makes a podcast. You really can't call what you have a podcast unless you have an RSS feed. And what the feed is, it's just basically a list of all your shows in a special format called XML. It's a special programming language, XML. But it's just a listing of all your shows, a description of all your shows, and where somebody could find your show, like what's the URL where your file is located. Now, you don't have to read the code and dig into the code to actually use an RSS feed. You just need to have an RSS feed made with this code, and then wherever you want your show to be, like on iTunes, Podcast Alley. It used to be in the Zune Marketplace. I mean, and people on Android phones, on Android apps, like I have an app called Dog Catcher, and all these services want, including iTunes, is your RSS feed. They don't want anything else. All of your information is in your feed. So you take this piece of code, your list of shows, you say, here iTunes, here Zune, here Dog Catcher, and wherever you want it to go.
Yeah.
And that's all you have to deliver. You don't have to like give them a whole big thing. Like to get my show, you have to go to my site. You got to do this. It's just, here's my RSS feed. That's all you need.
And that's something that I'm definitely, there's gonna be another episode is, I'm sure all of you are like, oh my gosh, code. I have no idea what's HTML,
I tried to keep it simple.
No, you did keep it simple, but it's not nearly as intimidating as you think. I mean, there's really only like one tool you need, maybe two, to get the code part handled, and it's a one-time thing. You submit it once your show is starting, you submit the feed, and theoretically, if everything's working right, you should never have to change it. You just log into your site and you post an episode, and it's not that difficult. And that's one of the things that we're gonna be getting to in future episodes is how to publish it on your podcasting account, how to update your website to publish it so that people can see not only on your website, but then also get to iTunes and get to all the other directories, because there's a whole plethora of directories, not just Apple and iTunes. I mean, Steve is a Droid user, and there's Droid podcasting apps as well. So thank you very much, Steve. Where can people find you if they want to find you on the web?
My website right now is Shut Up and Podcast. I try to encourage people to podcast because I've been doing it for 5 years. I know how much fun it is. After you do your first episode, usually you're hooked. So at Shut Up and Podcast, you could find my course that it's actually downloadable videos you can watch, or I offer consulting, and I could do that over the phone, Skype, or if I'm in your area, I'll come see you.
Thank you very much, Steve, for being on the show. And I'm Stuart Mackey for the Pocket Podcaster. Thank you very much. For more tips and tricks on how you can use your iPhone, iPad, or iPod Touch to produce marketing videos and podcasts, visit pocketpodcaster.com. Please make sure to look at the show notes for this episode to find where you can find the links we talked about, and also to leave comments and reviews. Thank you very much.